All right, let's take a closer look right now at how President-elect Trump's proposed tariffs could impact retailers and the consumer. Joining us right now for that is Jan Kniffen. He's the CEO of J. Rogers Kniffen WWE. And Jan, thank you very much for joining us. You sent me an email last week laying out your concerns around this or things that you think could happen potentially. And I just want to back this up because this was one of the most exhaustive and thorough analyses that I'd seen since we've gotten into all of these things. For context, you are somebody who has been involved with retail and with importing goods for most of your life, in a major way, too, talking about billions of dollars that you've been responsible for, bringing in goods a lot of times from China. What do you think the impact will be, especially after the NRF put out a report saying that they think American consumers could lose somewhere between $46 billion and $78 billion in purchasing power every year?
Yes, a lot of that goods going into China was my fault. Having said that, I'm less concerned about the tariffs than it seems like a lot of other people might be. Okay. You remember last time we put on tariffs, nothing really happened. We didn't see a big rise in inflation. We didn't see a big cratering of retail profits. Why not? Because the last time we put on tariffs, the Chinese factories were so desperate to keep the business that they literally ate a huge chunk of the tariff increases. At this point in time, the Chinese economy has never been worse in my lifetime in business than it is right this moment. So they're desperate to keep business. They want to keep the factories running. And in the short term, at least, if tariffs came on and they weren't dramatic tariffs, I believe a huge amount of that would get absorbed in an effort to keep the business in China. Because remember, we've been trying to move out of China for 10 years, and that accelerated after the last tariffs went on. And if more tariffs go on, that will continue the trend out of China. But right now, about 80% of all toys and games still come out of China. And then after that is sporting goods, and then down the list is home furnishings, and then footwear, and then electronics, and then appliances, and then apparel and home improvement. When you get to those last two categories, apparel and home improvement, it's only about 20% out of China right now. So we've already seen the shift happening of things coming either out of China to other places in Asia or nearshoring or onshoring. That will continue, especially if tariffs come in. But
what's your definition of tariffs that would not be too onerous or too substantial that you think might be able to be absorbed by some of these Chinese manufacturing plants?
Well, if we really put 60% on apparel and accessories and goods like that, that's going to be a big problem. Last time, they were double digits. So let's say that was 10, 15, those kind of numbers. I think that they would get mostly absorbed. When you get to punitive tariffs like 60, 100, 200%, obviously nobody can absorb those. They would have to get passed through, or the goods would just quit selling in the States. But I don't think that's what will happen on things that I'm talking about. We may do some really severe tariffs on things like cars, electronics, things that we think are critical to the national infrastructure or critical to the national security, but I don't think
things that can be manufactured here and are being, things that can and are being manufactured here versus things that maybe the manufacturing is probably never going to come back on shore here.
Or even if it did, there would be no people involved. It's not like you're going to bring a lot of jobs back. You bring back making all T-shirts in the United States, it'll be one person with a very sophisticated machine chunking out T-shirts. It will not be a lot of people working doing that kind of work. We're not going to have that.
You have concerns about the cost structure for some of the retailers because they're facing higher energy costs, higher labor costs than they were 8 years ago when President Trump came in for the first time. But how do you think this is going to play out? What do you think will happen this time?
Well, what all the retailers really worry about, one thing mostly, is that do you have a job, right? And so we want jobs to be plentiful here. And we have seen the job market getting weaker, not stronger. So that's our first concern. The other thing
because if Americans have jobs, they will continue to spend?
And they always do. If they have a job, if they think they'll keep it, and if they think they could get another one if they lost it, they'll keep spending. The other thing we always really worry about in the economy, of course, are the tax rates. And we were really concerned that a new administration might put on a 28% tax rate versus 21%. Retailers are maximum taxpayers. We don't have much to shield. And so if the rate goes to 28%, we're paying 28%. If it would go to 15%, That would be a really big deal in our favor from the point of view of making business easier to do. But staying at 21 would be okay as well, as long as the tariffs aren't really punitive. Even if tariffs were a little harsher, but you really went to 15% in the tax rate, you could absorb that as well. The problem with tariffs, as we all know, is they are regressive. They're just like a sales tax or a consumption tax or a value-added tax. They hit poorer people harder. So if it gets passed through, it's more painful that way. But, to put this in perspective, if you're talking about a company that's fairly high-end that sells apparel, accessories, and shoes like Tapestry, they're only about 10% out of China. But if you're talking about somebody like Five Below that sells a lot of toys and games and smaller value items, they're about 40% directly out of China and about 20% from other vendors. So they're about 60% of the product comes out of China, and they're selling fairly low-priced goods to a not affluent consumer. So that gets hurt a lot more if, in fact, it doesn't get absorbed by the factory.